Music really does rock, doesn't it? This is still Harris Heller. Thanks everybody for hanging out. I'm glad you like it as much as I do. Yeah, this is the playlist I use every stream. This is his Lone Wolf album from 2020. And it slaps. I think that's what the kids say, right? Anyway, we're going to bring it down a bit and talk about the news. How's it going, everybody? I'm glad you were jamming it like I was. So, long story short, we have a lot of news to go over this week. There have been some substantial changes at Xbox. We're talking about what's been going on just in the industry over the last week and everything that we've seen in terms of news. Xbox had a great partner showcase. I got to react to that live. I went into the studio. I was there with Stella and Ryan, enjoying what's going on in the studio. To kick things off at the top, though, I think I'm going to talk about this news from Shawn Layden, former PlayStation executive, who has talked about his take on the industry. I think he has had good takes. He's had bad takes. But this one was a bit interesting. So former PlayStation exec says console arms race has plateaued. Now, this is a take that I have said for years. I've been roasted for. A lot of people have been giving me a hard time about it. And he agrees with me. And most analysts actually agree that the consoles arm race has kind of hit this saturation point. We're not going to see astronomically larger numbers. And to a larger extent, I wanted to talk about this as the front running topic because I actually think this is a bit true about the entirety of gaming. I think that there's not a ton of growth left within the gaming industry. There are more people gaming every day, but I think those gains are going to be a little bit less than we've seen in the past because we've sort of hit this point where games are these massive properties. Everybody's playing them. And I do think that people are running out of time to play all of the games, and we are seeing more and more games be released and fail. Look at 2025 and just the sheer amount of games that were announced during the Xbox partner showcases as an example for next year. How in the world are all of these games going to be able to compete with each other? For a long time, this has been true on Steam. This has been true on all sorts of platforms where games just have a hard time making it out of the market. And when the AAA space, which basically throws, $200-300 million at a project, falls flat on its face and it's losing to something like Helldivers 2, it is rough. Now, within this realm, we did have a question from The Rock's Right Bicep, who just subscribed for 2 months over on Twitch. And he sort of asked about the PS5 Pro. He said, will you be getting a PS5 Pro? I can say, yes, I'm going to be getting it for work. And he said, if so, why will you be getting one? I'll be doing analysis for IGN in terms of frame rate, some of the better features of the console, if there's any fallbacks or things that could be improved with the console, things that consumers would want to know, especially around launch time. And generally speaking, we want to post the highest fidelity gameplay we possibly can over there. And same thing for no, why you wouldn't be getting one. Curious for your input because I personally don't have a PS5. I want to hear your opinion because I've followed you for years on YouTube, so I value it completely. Well, on the PS5 Pro front, I do think if you don't have a PlayStation 5 and you are looking to just get in on it, the improvements are so small that you would be just fine getting a standard PlayStation or even a PlayStation Slim Digital, especially if you're an all digital gamer. Now, if you have discs that you want to improve, I think the PS5 Pro is for graphic enthusiasts who have that expendable income, who have that extra money and are really, really excited about having the cutting edge technology. The improvements are noticeable if you're looking for them, but honestly, I think you could do just fine with a standard PlayStation, and I think that's why they're not like selling out like they used to. Yeah, it's sort of a question you have to ask yourself about whether or not you care about graphics that much. Where like, oh, the grass blades on the PlayStation 5 Pro look less blurry, but is that worth the $300 price increase or whatever it might be? But to get back to the overall console topic, and I hope that answers your question, The Rock, Shawn Layden had this interview. It's all over the internet right now. I have ad block turned off, so there's ads all over the place. Apologize in advance. But he basically said, former PlayStation exec says console arms race is plateaued. And I do think he is right. I don't think we're going to see anything breaking records or anything like that anytime soon. And he says, you know who won? AMD. And he's absolutely right, because AMD ended up providing all the components for a lot of the consoles that have been provided to all the console manufacturers. So let's just read about it a bit. We've done these things this way for 30 years. Every generation, those costs went up and we realigned with it, he replied. We've reached the precipice now where the center can't hold. We cannot continue to do things that we have done before. Layden added that he believes that in order for the console market to remain healthy, they must also appeal to a broad audience and consumers who weren't previously players. It's time for a real hard reset on the business model. Big agree on this one. A hard reset on what it is to be a video game, he said. It's not 80 hours. It's not 90 hours. But if it is, that's a whole different category. Yeah, and I think this idea that every game needs to be 80, 90 hours has sort of seeped into game design, where design is negatively impacting your overall experience of the game. If you have a cool feature, like I'm playing the original Red Dead right now, hunting is a big part of that game. And it was something that they thought about, they fleshed out, and it's really, really good, right? However, in a modern game, hunting might be like this whole separate thing that you could seep 20 hours into. Or tower liberation, like Ubisoft has this sort of template formula where you need to liberate all the towers to unlock the map, and then you sort of build upon that. And, you know, for me, I think it's gotten bloaty. Game design has gotten a little bit bloated, where they're trying to do too many things in the game, or they're stringing you along with all these side objectives you could do, and there's just too many of them. You have 5 different kinds of collectibles. You have to unlock the fog of war on the map. You have to do all these things because, as Shawn Layden is alluding to here, they have to justify that the price of their game, first of all, and they have to justify releasing a game at that price point and keep players hooked so that they end up in the microtransaction store or whatever. And I think it's really unfortunate, because AAA games, I think, have suffered under their own weight because of that reason. So when asked about future console hardware, Layden said he believed that a power boost on its own would not appeal to the majority of players. It is plateaued. We're at the stage of hardware development that I call only dogs can hear the difference, he said. If you're playing your game and sunlight is coming through your window onto your TV, you're not seeing any ray tracing. It has to be super optimal. You have to have an 8K monitor in a dark room to see these things. I get what he is saying. He is basically saying, like, if you need a digital Foundry video where they do 300% zooms on the grass and talk about the improvements on the grass, and they have to, like, or the performance reviews that I do on IGN, if you have to analyze the frame rate to show, oh, look, you're getting like 5% more frame rate on your console for Dragon's Dogma 2, it was a fun game, but yeah, the frame rate was really, really bad, and it's still not going to hit a lock 60. It's just like, I think the majority of consumers are not going to care about that. And that's why I thought the question up front was a good one to address, because it's just not something that the majority of players are looking for. Look, if you are going to get a PlayStation 5 Pro like me, I totally get where you're coming from, but we are definitely not the majority, right? We are not the people that are, or we are the type of people that are looking for those tiny little details. And part of the reason I look for them is because it's part of my job. Now, if I was really thinking about whether or not I would get that new piece of hardware, I waited for the PlayStation 4 Pro. So if I didn't need it for work, I probably wouldn't purchase one. I probably would have just stuck with my PlayStation 5 and waited it out till the PlayStation 6 generation. My whole thought process with the PlayStation 4 Pro when it came out was, oh, I'll wait for a price drop. It never came. And then the PlayStation 5 was coming out in like a year. So I just never worried about it. Yeah, and separately, as a content creator, as somebody that utilizes those devices for obviously work in terms of creating content like I do on this channel, you get tax write-offs aren't like free money that like people think. It reduces the amount of income that you end up having to pay taxes on. So it's helpful. And they say that you should spend a certain percentage of your earnings every year, but I hire a tax person to do that because I have no idea what I'm doing in that realm. But yeah, so people are like, oh, you can just write it off in your taxes, and they think you just get it for free. You don't get it for free. You just pay a little bit less taxes at the end of the year. Anyway, all of that said, usually I don't agree with Shawn Layden, but almost everything that he has said in this piece conflates with something that I've heard from an industry professional who does industry analysis for a living. And I really think he was onto something with this one. And he concludes by saying that race is nearly over. And you know who won? AMD. And he's right, because AMD provided all the components for those computers. So I think it was a really, really good interview. Now, there were several interviews with Shawn Layden, and apparently Gamescom Asia actually had this whole other piece where he was able to sit in on a fireside chat with Gordon Van Dyke. We're going to cover off on that one over on gamesindustry.biz. And this one, he sort of talked about where game design is going and talks about some of the things that I have also discussed on my streams. In the past, we spent a lot more time looking at games and not asking what's your monetization scheme or what's your recurrent revenue plan or what's your subscription formula. We asked the simple question, is it fun? Are we having a good time? If you said yes to those questions, you'd usually get a green light. You didn't worry so much about the end piece, for better or for worse. Of course, back then you didn't make a game for millions of dollars, so your risk tolerance was fairly high. And honestly, like I really just wish like most AAA designers and the people hitting the green light, there are so many things that they have to consider when they're making a AAA game. Okay, do we have all of the bells and whistles that gamers have asked for? Like, are the graphics up to snuff? Are all of these things looking the best that they possibly can? Secondarily, they asked like, okay, well, what's our monetization structure with the skins? Well, let's make sure we save the best skins for the people that are willing to pay, $23 for the horse or whatever you end up paying in Diablo for whatever skin that you don't earn anymore. You actually just purchase. And I think that's really, really unfortunate. Literally the first, and I talk about this all the time, the first video I made on my personal YouTube channel was stop buying microtransactions. Vote with your wallet. I've been saying that for a decade now. I think that video is like 9 years old, but the fundamentals of what I was talking about in that piece, which nobody watched, was if you keep spending money on the microtransactions, on the battle passes and such, it is a poison eroding away at the fabric of the games that you want to play, because now we're in this future where every game has to have something ripped out of it, put in a store so that they can sell it back to you using an upselling tactic, to the point where Ubisoft is literally releasing several SKUs of their games. They have the main game that you can just buy for $60. They have the middle of the road game. They have the $100 collector's edition game. And then they have the subscription plan so that you subscribe to Ubisoft Plus Premium. And it's really unfortunate that we're in this place, because back in the day, the Halo Bungie devs basically said, hey, that sticky grenade's pretty fun. There's our 3 seconds of fun. Can we build a whole game around that mechanic and build it out from there? And going back and playing something like Red Dead, which granted did have cosmetics, even as far back as Red Dead, they had Undead Nightmare, which was a DLC package. They had costumes that you could buy, and that's all fine. But it's gotten to the point where I think gamers are fed up, and they're just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to buy all this stuff in the store. I'm not going to be a whale, or at least I hope that's what we're seeing in the industry. I hope we're seeing a breaking point with how people are choosing to spend their money in these worlds that they end up exploring. He continues on. Today, the entry cost for making a AAA game is in the triple-digit millions now. I think naturally risk tolerance drops, and you're looking at sequels. You're looking at copycats, because the finance guys who draw the line say, well, if Fortnite has made this much money in this amount of time, my Fortnite knockoff can make this in that amount of time. We're seeing a collapse of creativity in games today with studio consolidation and the high cost of production. And he's absolutely right. It's incredibly unfortunate, isn't it? And he goes on to say that we've seen this in movies, you know, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I absolutely agree with him. I think we're seeing less and less creativity. I think games these days are, what's the saying I see online all the time? I wouldn't even say designed by committee, although that might be a separate topic, where everybody gets a say about every facet of the game, as opposed to one person having a vision and then everybody works together to bring that vision to reality. Of course, with a little bit of thought into how they want that to come to life. And you have a discussion. I think it was Thomas Maller was getting a little bit of hot water this week, because he was talking about it a little bit on X, about how, you know, when you're passionate about the things that you're creating, you have heated arguments. And you know who else I saw about it? The Fallout creator. The Fallout creator talked about it. And there's stuff in Jason Schreier's book where the best games, there's always a creative friction. And creative friction sometimes in the modern space is a little concerning to a lot of people. But Tim Kaine, thank you, chat. Some of those creative friction moments have resulted in the best games we've ever played. I think it's part of a really exciting creative energy that I worry is being lost in the sauce, so to speak, because these days it seems like the executives are more worried about making their ROI than they are about anything else. Philoroni in chat says, we don't have many Kojimas anymore. And I think that's a great analogy. We don't have a lot of people like Kojima who really believe in their vision and just will do anything to see it come to life. In what world do you think it would be even possible to get something like Halo 1? How could you ever get Halo 1 greenlit in the modern era? What would it look like? Well, you would have a whole bunch of skins that you can get from Master Chief, and they would be locked behind some sort of paywall system. The multiplayer maps, you would have literally half the amount of multiplayer maps, because they would sell you, multiplayer maps, or they would release them as part of their season pass model. The levels, maybe you would only have half of the campaign. Well, I mean, you sort of did with Halo 1, right? And then you went into Halo 2, which was half the campaign, and then you continued it on. And it would be I think it would be really unfortunate if Halo 1 was designed with modern day standards in place. Because I think there has been something has definitely been lost with, not all. Metaphor Refantasio just came out. It's in the Persona vein. I started playing. I played about an hour or so of it, and I'm like, wow, this is really, really refreshing. And there's smaller AA games in the indie space, like, Helldivers 2 was this massive success earlier in the year. Pal World could be a massive success if he manages to, if that team manages not to get sued into oblivion. But we're at a really, I consider it an unfortunate time, honestly. There are great games coming out here and there, but there are so many colossal disasters that result in studio closure that it's really tough to make those bets these days. And honestly, I was asked by Rami, I forget his last name, but he said, well, if you had $100 million, would you bet on one $100 million bet or 10 $10 million bets? And I would take the 10 $10 million bets, honestly. I would rather fund 10 indie games and then build them up from there. But that's not the play most people are making. They're going all in on Suicide Squad, and they're saying that they need to have all of the cosmetics and they got to do all of this. They have to have all of these check boxes checked. You got to have the best graphics. You got to have the battle pass. You got to have the skin. You got to have the store. You got to have the season pass. You got to have collectibles in the game that aren't particularly fun to get. And you got to have loot to chase. And don't give them too much loot, because if you give them all the loot up front, and if it's too easy to get, then you know how it goes. And it's really, really unfortunate that that's where we are in my in my opinion. He continues on, in the gaming business, you have Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, indie stuff, but then that middle piece, that middle layer that used to be where Interplay, Gremlin, Ocean THQ, all those companies made their money, that middle piece is gone. If you can become AAA, you survive, or if you do something interesting in the indie space, you could, but AA is gone. I think that's a threat to the ecosystem, if you will. So I'm looking at indie stuff with the advent of technologies like the latest Unreal Engine or what Unity can give you. I think we can all say that the standard quality of video games is pretty high right now compared to 10 years ago. And I would agree with that, because if you don't release it high, it falls on its face. Even a game, you know, we saw the FBC Firebreak trailer this week, and the thing is, that looks really, really cool. Talking about Remedy for a second, though, Alan Wake still isn't profitable. Alan Wake 2 still has not broken into the profitability margin. And I respect the hell out of Remedy for taking a swing at a game like Alan Wake 2 and saying, you know what? We think this will become profitable. And that's good enough for us. But the problem is most companies don't think like Remedy. Most companies are like, this needs to make us all the money. And if it doesn't, shut it all down. And that's really, really scary. Anyway, let's continue reading here. I only read that much of it. Now, if we can just get a bit more interest and excitement and exposure for these lower budget, but super creative and super unusual types of games, I'd like to see more of that, because if we're just going to rely on the blockbusters to get us through, I think that's a death sentence. He's absolutely correct. And here's the thing about those middle of the road games. I think more and more and more of those smaller, quote unquote, smaller games are popping off. And it has me so excited about the future of the way the industry is going. Delta Force is a game I probably have 200 hours in. I adored that game. And I'm just like, hey, Delta Force is great. We should probably cover Delta Force. Delta Force is a really, really fun game. And, you know, IGN has a preview up and things like that. I posted some gameplay over the weekend, and it's really, really good. And then there's the question of physical media. We do have the question of physical media in chat from The Rock over here. He said, I work for GameStop, so I personally love my discs, mainly because they're the same price as digital. No reason a digital game should be the same price as a physical disc. That's the only downside for me. Absolutely true. I do think there is a place for physical media. You pop that disc in and it downloads the update, but more and more we are actually seeing a whole different version of the game. Like I think Silent Hill 2 is like the gold standard for Silent Hill 2, which was put into the disc version of the game, but you don't get that when you launch it online. And there's the whole distribution methodology with physical versus digital, where the digital version can be distributed quite easily, right? The digital version, you just say add new code so that people can buy game. So yeah, that's a little bit crazy. Anyway, bring something that you sort of challenge yourself to see. The gaming media, this medium is so flexible. It can do many different things, he continued. So I think your strengths in AA are going to be that your time to market should be faster. You know, to get 1,500 developers to do the next GTA, that's not the place you need to go for your AA. If you're a developer, you've got to be able to say, I can get something up and running in 2 to 3.5 years. And we have seen games that have developed in 2 to 3 years that just absolutely trounce the competition. There was a recent large game that was developed in 2 to 3 years. I think Black Myth Wukong would be another good example that was developed on a shorter time cycle than most games. And it got really lucky. There have been a lot of failures out of China. So don't get me wrong about the China market. They have had their fair share of failures, including the studio that made Black Myth Wukong, and it's only been going up from there. If you're going to pitch your AA game and in the first 2 pages of your deck is your monetization and revenue subscription scheme, I'm out. Your first page has to be, this game needs to be made and here's why. Well, I'm glad one of the investors say that. I want to see that fire. I don't want to see here's the chief accountant on the team that's going to explain to you the game's monetization. He also talks about AI. Artificial intelligence has been in gaming since almost the first or second games ever made. So all this excitement about Gen AI, I find kind of humorous. I do see its applications in certain places for certain things, but it's just a tool. It's not a savior. It's a tool in the way that Excel is a tool. It just helps you speed along your tasks. One good example would be utilizing AI to help you find all of the assets that have a certain term for them within your engine or something like that. Something where it can like watch video information and say, hey, I need all of the instances where our QA team was doing this bug and they encountered this bug. So give me all the video clips of those. Like that's something that AI could be really, really helpful with. Is just something off the top of my head. So that is really, really interesting. And funny enough, that's actually what he sort of discusses. I think it helps with ideation. You can get a really good pitch deck done fast using AI. Finally, Layden also touched upon the opportunities that Asia represents for the games industry. This is a big one. I do think that Asia isn't held to the same standard that the Western market is. I think in the West, we have a lot more. I think there's a little bit of confusion on the development side as to what gamers actually want versus what gamers say they want. There's what gamers say they want. Oh, we need the best looking graphics in the world. Okay, explain why Palworld was so successful. Palworld did not have the best graphics in the world. It has to be cutting edge 4K native. Here comes Helldivers 2, not cutting edge, not 4K native. It's just a really fun game. At the end of the day, what gamers actually want, and we all know this, a fun video game, a good story. Like if you're focusing on the story being a core part of your game experience, it has to be that. And I don't know about you, but during my gameplay session, I either want to feel cool, play as a cool character, be a badass, right? Or I want to be moved in some way. One of the super janky game, but I played That Dragon Cancer. There's probably a live stream somewhere on it on this game. It's just a small indie game. It's a story of two parents who lost their child, very unfortunately, to cancer. And it's a wonderful game raising awareness to cancer. And I believe it was for a charity. A great game. You know, there's experiences like that. But I think it's harder to find those peer experiences today. And that is one avenue where I don't feel like the Asia market is as beholden to as the Western market is, right? I think, like I said, something is being lost in translation between what gamers say they want and what they actually want. I think gamers are very loud on X, and there's a little bit of confusion. Like guys, you're not going to get native 4K games on consoles for a long time. I'm just going to break it to you now. I don't think you're going to get native 4K on most of your PlayStation 5 Pro games, maybe PlayStation 6. But honestly, PC gamers are really happy at that 1440p mark anyway. I look at Asia, South Asia, this part of the world as where all the next great opportunities are going to come from. I agree on that. And the level of the game development talent here grows faster than the rest of the world, he said. I think here in Asia, where we have a lot of small, scrappy studios with good talent, they just need to break through. It's just a bit of luck to find the right IP or find the right platform. I'd also like to see more games being made in that country, in that culture. It's like, if my game doesn't sell a lot in California, I'm not successful. Well, California is not your market. Look at the markets here. They're growing. The economies are robust. There's more disposable income. You can make a great game in Indonesia for that market. And I think that's so important for the overall global gaming system, because the one thing I've been talking about in my 5 years since I've retired is very simple. We need more people playing games. It's a $250 billion global business, but the actual number of players doesn't grow at the same pace. So we're getting more money from the same people. You need to get more people playing games. How do you do that? We need to get more people making games. More people around the world have to be in the business or the art of making games. Make it for your neighbors, make it for your friends, make it for yourself, but don't think that the Western market is the be all end all of your activity. Build it here, be successful. You know what's crazy? I literally just said some version of what Shawn Layden just said. And I find it interesting that he is coming to the same conclusions. I think you need to stick to your vision. Like I think Sean Murray is a great example of somebody that made something. He believed in it. He started doing it as his inspiration. And some of these other games that, inspired him when he was younger. There was like a space adventure game that was on the DOS that he really, really enjoyed. And Sean Murray, if I said Shawn Layden, you know who I meant. And I think there's something there, right? There's something there that I really, really admire and appreciate, because all too often we get caught up in chasing these trends. And I love it when a developer sticks to what they think is going to work, and then they see great success for that happening. Now, real quick, we had a few super chats while I was going on my ramble. I'm just trying to find them as I navigate through. I don't know how to find them when I'm live. There's a panel somewhere, but I was in a good flow. Supers. Here we go. So we got one from 5280 who said, PlayStation is trash. Man, it's so weird that he would say that. I don't think that's appropriate. Why would you say PlayStation is trash? 5280. Thank you for the $2. Maybe I read it wrong. Anyway, Danny Passion Official said, until publishers stop making their game quality by critics and analytics opinions instead of gamers, this problem will continue to get worse. Yeah, you know what's interesting? I do think that critics, I'm a critic, so I'm a little bit biased here. I think they get a little bit of a bad rap. I think the problem is, as a critic, I'm looking at all the games. I've probably played like 20 different games this year. I just don't review games anymore because it's really hard to make anybody happy. You put out a game, you think it's the greatest thing in the world. You give it a 10 out of 10, people are mad. You give it a 7, people are mad. You give it a 4, people are mad. Like, everybody's mad at you. You cannot win as a game reviewer. So for me, I'm just not going to review stuff anymore. And, that's where I sort of sit with the whole thing. Thank you, Danny. I'm going to put your $5 on the board. Danny with the 5. And I think I want to break up the super chats now a little bit. 50. Watch it with the PlayStation slander. I'll have none of that in my chat. I can't believe you would say such a thing about... I thought you were a PlayStation fan, man. Why are you talking down about PlayStation? That makes me sad. Sheesh. Last Action Hero, he paid for a new marker for testing. Did he? Is he mad? I wasn't even looking, chat. So I want to structure the stream where I can do breakouts, because I know some people actually really enjoy watching the breakouts versus watching the stream live. And I knew that this would be a really good topic to jump off on. So we covered off on the Shawn Layden stuff. I'll just move that to the front. Yeah, Daniel Ahmad actually chimed in here just a little bit about the topic. He said, this especially true of younger gamers, many of which are already playing on mobile and PC or even last-gen consoles in some cases. I think Daniel Ahmad, he's an industry analyst. He's been doing this for a long time, and he has had some really, really great takes about where the industry is, and he really has his pulse on the whole situation. The rest of the stories that we have, okay, yeah, we got a few PlayStation stories I want to cover off on. Let me collect them all, because I have them smattered all over, because there was a whole bunch of Halo stuff that came out that I found quite interesting. Maybe we start with the exciting one that I saw some people talking about in chat a little bit. I think you know the one that I'm talking about. Oh yeah, so while I'm moving these around, don't forget I got to play Stalker 2 this last week. My full preview is over on IGN, but I've gotten to play Stalker 2 several times now, and I just want to say I think it is coming together quite well. I was very impressed with how much it has improved since I played it last. So I played it at Gamescom. I'm in the documentary being like, oh, it's not like perfect or whatever. But it's come along so much, and it's looking so much better. It was so fun. It's probably one of my most anticipated games of this year now, because of just how everything unfolded when I was playing it. It was really, really a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go check out my preview. Big news here, though, everybody. Black Myth Wukong has been rated by the ESRB. Now, I first saw this when Mario pointed out that, look, it has been rated. It says this is an action role-playing game in which players assume the role of a monkey, not like the monkey, come on a quest to retrieve various relics. From a third-person perspective, players explore a fantasy world and engage in melee-style combat against enemies. Players use a staff and magic spells, and they continue to describe the game. So, what does this mean? Well, it means that seeing it's been rated for the Xbox series of consoles, the PlayStation 5 and PC, that on the one hand, we're probably going to be getting a physical disc sooner rather than later, but also it's finally going to come to Xbox, and I'm guessing that's going to be before the end of the year. For me, that's really, really exciting because I like I said, Black Myth is definitely up there in terms of my game of the year contenders. I'm not sure what else would be on that list right now, if I'm being totally honest. Another smaller news update. I don't know how big this one is, but Microsoft has also settled the gamers lawsuit. That was the $69 billion deal went through, and the gamers lawsuit was going, and it has been closed. Now, it sounds like they settled. The gamers sent in a joint filing with Microsoft and San Francisco federal court late on Monday that they were dismissing their lawsuit with prejudice, meaning they cannot refile it. Now, they said they settled, but I don't think... It seems like... Did they get a payout? I don't know. The court filing did not reveal how the lawsuit was resolved, and the plaintiff's attorneys did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Microsoft in a statement said the two sides settled the case, but declined to provide more details. The lawsuit alleged Microsoft's deal to buy Activision violated U.S. antitrust law and should be barred. The private civil case was logged in 2022. Wow, I've been talking about this thing since 2022. Microsoft has denied any wrongdoing and defended the acquisition, which closed October 2023, as beneficial to the gamers. What do you think they were? Were they like, look, we'll give you $1 million, just go away. We don't want to do this anymore. We are so done with this. And then the other one was all about a certain Affinity game director, Mike Klopper. You can see his LinkedIn here. He is a studio design director at Raven Software. And if you look, apparently there was a Halo Infinite Battle Royale. It actually was in the works. Halo Infinite Battle Royale was real and could have been a game changer, Dev says. Infinite possibilities. The Halo Infinite Battle Royale mode, which Microsoft reportedly scrapped, was in fact real, with one developer saying it could have been a game changer for the beloved Xbox franchise. Do we think, in chat, Halo Infinite would have been saved if it had a Battle Royale mode? I'm going to go ahead and say that Halo did not need a Battle Royale mode. I think whatever was going to happen with Halo Infinite happened because it just didn't see adequate support, right? I led a large team of designers working on a canceled Battle Royale mode for Halo, Klopper said. I believe this product could have been a game changer for the franchise. We loved playing it, and working on it was a fantastic experience in spite of its cancellation. Now, I do wonder if the new Halo games are going to end up having a Battle Royale or not. That is literally the whole story. That's it. It just could have been a game changer. My hot take on the whole Halo situation is that no, I don't think that having a Battle Royale or not having a Battle Royale would have affected Halo Infinite. I will say this, though, about Halo Infinite, and it's going to be a spicy one. I think the campaign is way better than y'all give it credit for. I think from a gameplay perspective, it was pretty fun. I think from a storytelling perspective, it was pretty solid. I think it's one of the best Halo campaigns we have had probably since Halo 3. Or what was the last one Bungie did? Halo Reach? Yeah, Reach was the last one Bungie did, right? So we had Reach, and then we had Halo 4, which was, I mean, campaign-wise, I'll give you Halo 4 a little bit more. Halo 5 sucked. Halo 5 was just a bad story, period. Right? Reach and ODST. Thank you. So this is probably the best Halo game since Reach or ODST. Halo 5 is the worst story they've ever told. Anybody's ever told in the Halo universe, which it's if they would have just tweaked it a bit, it could have been fine, but it was so bad. I think visually it was pretty, and gameplay wise, it was sort of whatever, but just as a whole package, Halo 5 was the worst package, everything. Infinite campaign, really good. Halo 5 bad. I don't know how they get it that crazy. But one of the companies that has been known to work with Bungie regularly is Certain Affinity. And Certain Affinity has been the one founded by ex-Bungie devs, added 180 staff to Keywords development empire. So Keywords has purchased Certain Affinity. And I do wonder what that means. The studio was founded in 2006 by a group of former Bungie staff and is specialized in co-development of AAA games projects. And it has worked on include Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights, as well as multiple titles in the Call of Duty and Halo franchises, including Halo Infinite. So good get for ever purchased them. They said, at this most difficult time in the market, we're thrilled to be able to provide stability and a supportive home for our team, said Oberman in a statement. The respect for our talent and culture that Keywords has shown, along with a willingness to invest in our growth, is unparalleled. Paul and I look forward to partnering with them to chart a course for careful expansion of our core co-development activities, refinement of our lead development capabilities, as well as championing the growth of the Create division. Great. A good outcome in modern game industry politics, or whatever you want to call it. Game industry reshuffling. Makes me quite happy to see that they're really happy about this, and both teams seem happy. No layoffs, nothing like that. Good news all around. Continuing on, Austin Evans. You know those new Xbox consoles? I watched this video from Austin Evans. So they have a smaller nanometer CPU, basically, the 6 nanometer processor. And this console, it turns out that the new consoles are better, not just because you get more memory, you get the 2 terabyte drive instead of the 1 terabyte. It also uses a little bit of electricity, and I believe it runs at about the same temp, but overall you get a bit of a slicker experience with these new consoles, which was a surprise to see because Austin Evans is the one that did the teardown of the PlayStation and came to the conclusion that the PlayStation was an inferior upgrade when they made the new unit. And in addition, it's cheaper to make for Xbox. I mean, good for Xbox, but it is slightly better. So both versions are lighter than the current model, which is great. So there's obviously less in there because you don't have a hard disk drive in there, but it is nice to hear that they actually made improvements. Big shout out to Paris Lilly, who also said, Xbox Game Pass is the best value in gaming, giving a big shout out to all the games we're getting over the next month. We got Call of Duty coming out on the 24th. We got the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 release coming on the 19th. Stalker 2, the one I'm hyped for, November 20th. And then Indiana Jones, December 8th, 2024. That's great. That's a lot of good gaming over the next month or so, isn't it? And then somebody gave me a shout out about the Stalker 2 preview. And if you missed it, I covered off on this in its own bespoke video, but Craig Duncan has become the new head of Xbox Game Studios. The person who was in that role retired. That person had been there for a long time. Craig Duncan has seen big successes with the Rare team. He has good people stepping in to help him continue on. I just had a window crash. I don't know why. Continue on in his footsteps, and it does look like things are going to be just fine. And then, we got 2025 to look forward to. We know Avowed's in Q1, along with a ton of other games that we learned about from the Xbox experience or the Xbox showcase recently. Now, on the PlayStation front, we're going to cover off on one other PlayStation story I probably should have covered up front, and that's a random smattering of news. But the God of War TV show, basically, it's restarting. Now, I'm excited about seeing God of War on Amazon. They've done a really good job with their other IPs, including The Last of Us. The Last of Us has been a really good game that's been really popular. But God of War is basically getting a soft reboot. After departure of EPs and Raf Judkins, Hawk Ostby, and Mark Fergus, they're just like, we're just going to put this on ice for right now. So the God of War TV show, unfortunately, is not happening anytime soon. I would rather that one was done right as opposed to done quickly. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's sort of where I'm left. And interesting note here from Daniel Ahmad. Remember the whole Unity story where Unity was trying to charge like a subscription fee to the developers, and the developers weren't happy and gamers weren't that happy about it, and everybody was giving a hard time to the CEO. Well, they have largely replaced the entirety of their staff. One interesting point to note is that Unity has replaced nearly its entire leadership team following the announcement and cancellation of the controversial runtime fee policy. Leadership from 2023 was this. John Riccatello is covered up by my camera. And then now it's totally new people, basically. Yeah, I don't see Nadav anywhere. Mark Berrysmith. Yeah, it's all new people. Out with the old, in with the new, I suppose. But I mean, it was a pretty bad situation through and through. And that was a quote tweet from Unity 6 is launched, releasing on mobile PC, extended reality, and console platforms. The arrival of the new engine comes just a week after the company officially walked back its controversial runtime fee. That's probably the most boneheaded announcement I have ever seen in gaming. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to save the Ubisoft story for last because it's kind of a downer. Real quick, remember all those 007 games? Probably should have paired this with the Xbox news up front, but check this out. IO Interactive's Project 007 new details. Production going amazingly well. We'll share more details soon. The game will be an origin story with a James Bond built from the ground up. Given their experience with Hitman, we're able to convince the IP owners to make another James Bond game almost 15 years since the last game. IO hopes the game can be a success and they can make a trilogy. That's Project 007. I think I'm ready for a new James Bond movie. I'd be down for a new James Bond game. I think this is cool. Like, sometimes you just need a good game. You don't need to reinvent the game, right? Like, if they were going to redo GoldenEye, you just need modern mechanics in it. You probably got to redo the levels. Like, it would have to be like the way they did Dead Space, where they built it from the ground up. And I really like these remakes that are, and I know they're not remaking, but if anybody ever was, I really like these remakes where they're honoring the original game, but modernizing it in an exciting way to players who love that franchise. And I do like that. And they say Hitman Studio IO Interactive hopes its Young Bond for gamers will go on to star in a big trilogy. Young Bond. Yeah, I'd be hyped for anything Bond related. Also, I do feel like it's a really good time to sort of come into the James Bond franchise right now. We have two stories left. First of all, this is just your reminder. Delta Force is a very good video game. I'm going to play this trailer here really quick. It's really fun. I don't know what to say. I really like this game. It's Battlefield, right? So if you like Battlefield and even wanting a good Battlefield, go play Havoc Warfare. It's their Battlefield mode. If you like extraction shooters, play Tactical Turmoil. It's their extraction. Yeah, it's my son. He's playing with a whistle. Sorry, everybody. If you like Tactical Turmoil, go play Tactical Turmoil. That doesn't happen. I've never made the whole building fall down. Can you really do that? I've never seen this happen. Now I want to see if I can actually make that happen. Hold on a second. You cannot. No. I have never made that building fall down. I didn't know you could do that. Anyway, now I got to go see if you can actually do that, because that is crazy if you actually can. Yeah, so there's the normal mode, Havoc Warfare, and Tactical Turmoil. Tactical Turmoil is the extraction type where you go in, you try and loot everybody, and then you get out as soon as you can. Hazard Operations, I believe, are part of tactical turmoil, but I'm a little confused about, you have to be like super high level to utilize them, I think, if I'm remembering right. That's just like some low level boss. They shouldn't be on the struggle bus that much. It's very fun. I have like way too much time in that game. And I just wanted to say that, I mean, if you haven't played Delta Force yet, you absolutely should. It's a really good game. I thought we would catch up on what's going on with Ubisoft. And apparently nobody's happy at the company because they're all on strike. French union STJV says dictat directive. What? Sometimes people use words they don't need to use. Just use the simpler word. So there was a directive to be in the office at least 3 days a week. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, according to this story. And 700 plus Ubisoft France staff walk out on a 3-day strike. Yeah, don't mess around with France, man. They're willing to just do nothing. It's not economically sustainable and unfair on a human level, says Italian union Fiom Sigil. Yeah, Ubisoft Milan also chimed in on this. Phil Roney said, oh yes, let's talk about how my stock in Ubisoft is screwed. Yeah, it's not good. It's unthinkable that a young person who lives in another region or in any case far from our territory could spend 3 days a week in Milan turning their existence upside down, said Fiom Sigil representative Andrea Rosa Falco. It's not economically sustainable and unfair on a human level. According to Insider Gaming, several Ubisoft Milan employees are set to leave the studio as a result. It also noted that sources have said some were leaving to join former creative director Davide, his new studio, Day for Night. They reached out to Ubisoft for comment. Now, this comes at a time when we have that open letter basically saying, hey, we want Yves Guillemot out. We want you to sell the Tencent, like we want money. So like I made that whole Ubisoft video not that long ago talking about all of that craziness also. And that's long and the short of the news for this week. Did I miss anything important? Now is your time to remind me about it. And then just a small reminder, if you haven't been paying attention, Steam Next Fest is going on right now. And if you look, you can see a whole bunch of games, including this new Ninja Turtles game, which I still got to try out. Obviously, I have wish lists. I posted gameplay of this and everybody said I was bad at it. But Mandragora was one of the top games. And of course, I vouch for Delta Force. There's Void, Legacy, San, The Spirit of the Samurai, and all of these other games that you should check out. Steam Next Fest is going on for one more week. Definitely play it. And long story short, I do think that's the stream for this weekend. Axis on Scene. You think I should check out Axis on Scene? Is that a good one? Let me see. Did I miss it? I'll download it right after the stream. Yeah, there's a ton of really, really interesting games here. Oh, here's a good one. Hordes of Hell with one L. It's a gripping roguelike Nord survival game. Kind of interested in that. The Precinct is quite popular. Silent Hill 2 did seem to do well. Yeah, Bloober Team knocking it out of the park with Silent Hill 2. Yeah, I'm curious about charts. I usually like to look at the charts. So if we go look over here at the charts, you can see top demos. Supervive, a lot of the stuff on the front page, top demo. Oh, what's this one? See, like, I just like to look at art style sometimes and just see like, oh, does this thumbnail intrigue me? And I like to just mouse over a lot of these games and just be like, okay, is this art style? Like, am I going to be turned off by the art style or am I going to be into it? I played this one today. Gameplay of this is up on IGN. Void is very, very good. I haven't talked about Unknown 9. We reviewed it and we gave it like a 4. IGN gave it like a 4. Travis reviewed it. So I'm good. If Travis says it's bad, it's probably not going to be my kind of game. Ooh, Supernatural looks neat. Anyway, there's all these cool games, and that's probably what I'll spend any additional time I have today checking out. Legacy, Steel, and Sorcery. Sure, why not? Add that one to my wish list too. Ally X eGPU RTX 4070 Super or PS5 Pro. I would get, I mean, I would get the card upgrade personally, 4070, yeah. Because you're going to be able to play all the PlayStation games on your, everything on PlayStation, including Spider-Man 2. You're going to be able to play it early next year. Spider-Man 2 was just announced for PC. And then like, what else would you need the PS5 for? The robot game, the little robot chibi guy. And what was the other one? Gran Turismo 7. Yeah. So like if you're going to get one of those things and you already have a beefy PC, just get the card. Ghost of Yotei has only been announced for PlayStation this far, but yeah. I think that's all we have for the stream today. Thanks for watching, everybody. That was a nice one. Astrobot. Yes. Thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. If you did hear a whistle during this video, that is my son having fun. So I do apologize for that. But he's allowed to do that, right? Thanks for watching, everybody. I do greatly appreciate you hanging out. Thank you so much to the members. If you want to become a member and support this channel, you can do so by clicking that join button right down there at the bottom of the screen. You just click join and you can see details. You can support at whatever level. It all supports this channel. And before I go, check out this video that I'm going to link to. It's probably related to the thing that I'm talking about. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.